Here's a real quick video on viruses and vaccines. I don't believe in either. I don't believe in viruses, and therefore there's zero need for a vaccine. And there's plenty of people who know way more than me, and you know talk about talk about it way more in depth, like the Dr. Sam and Mark Bailey, Andrew Kaufman, Tom Cowan, and a lot of people before them. So, but just wanted to put in my 2 cents here on what I found. Again, nothing new, but so. It says, in our audit of the Great Erasure, the transition from terrain theory, right, which is it's claiming here is the Scythian Israelite, European white understanding of internal biological harmony, to germ theory, the syndicate, right, the beast system's narrative of external invisible invaders, represents one of the most successful invisible harvests in history. By establishing the virus as a phantom enemy, the administrative grid achieved a level of biological surveillance and control that physical borders could never provide. The linguistic coup from poison to pathogen. The word virus originally meant poison or venom. In the Scythian Saxon medical tradition, illness was understood as an internal cleansing or a reaction to toxicity in the environment, a process later termed pleomorphism by researchers like Antoine Béchamp. The circular logic, as noted by researchers like Dr. Sam Bailey and Dr. Andrew Kaufman, the syndicate's proof of viral existence relies on in vitro test tube procedures rather than in vivo living body observation. The cytopathic effect deception. Medical labs take a sample, starve the cells of nutrients, add toxic antibiotics, and when the cells break down, they claim the virus did it. In our narrative, this is administrative projection, blaming an external phantom for the destruction caused by the laboratory process itself, right? What do you think is going to happen when you add antibiotics, anti life, and starve the cells of nutrients? Obviously, they're going to break down. That has nothing to do with anything else. So, the isolation fraud, the missing gold standard. The great erasure of medical truth hinges on the definition of isolation. To truly prove a virus exists, it must be separated from all other genetic material and shown to cause disease in a healthy host. Because the syndicate cannot physically isolate a virus from a sick person, they use in silico or computer generated sequences. They take genetic soup, let an algorithm stitch together millions of tiny fragments, and declare it a new virus. And then it says the exosome mirror. I don't know if I believe this or not, the exosome theory, but it says forensic analysis suggests that what the grid calls viruses are actually exosomes, the body's own cellular waste, disposal, and communication units. The syndicate has rebranded the body's healing mechanism as a disease agent to justify the injection protocol. Vaccination, the biological subscription. If the virus is the software bug that doesn't actually exist, then the vaccine is a mandatory update that installs the administrative script into the blood of the Scythian, Saxon, Israelite German seed. Breaking the vertical covenant. Vaccination represents a lack of faith in the natural order, the divinely created immune system. By accepting the injection, the individual agrees to a biological lease with the syndicate, right, with the beast system, where their health is now managed by the central banking grid, pharmaceutical industries, or subsidiaries. The reset of the blood. Historically, the push for mass vaccination often follows a great reset, such as the 1918 Spanish flu, which researchers like Eleanor McBean noted was actually caused by massive wartime medicine and experimental vaccination shots. The phantom border guard. The virus is the ultimate administrative border guard. It allows the syndicate to declare a state of emergency at any time, bypassing all constitutional and loyal rights in the name of public health. When you realize the invader is a linguistic fiction, the entire beast system's medical authority collapses, right? I mean, everything that they tell us about medicine and sickness is all fake, fraudulent. It's not real. So, in our forensic audit of the Great Erasure, the transition from the Scythian, Saxon, Israelite, European understanding of cleanliness and covenant to the syndicate's germ theory marks the moment the body was reclassified from a sovereign temple to a managed biological asset. Proof of terrain theory in Scythian Israelite ancestry. While the term terrain theory is modern, the Scythian Israelite ancestors operated under a covenantal biological framework that mirrors the internal harmony model. The Levitical Hygiene Code. The Torah, the core administrative laws of the Israelites, right, of the white Israelites, contains exhaustive instructions on cleanness and uncleanness. Disease was not viewed as an attack by invisible spirits viruses, but as a state of ritual or physical defilement caused by contact with death, improper diet, or environmental toxins. And my note, real quick, just to add to this, wasn't some of it from spirits, from demons or whatever, right? And made people crazy or retarded or whatever it was. And then Christ or the apostles would cast them out. So now that's not the same quote unquote sickness as like what they claim a flu is, right? But I just wanted to point that out. I don't know if they're comparable or not, but anyway, the Saxon blood and soil health. The early Germanic and Saxon tribes viewed health as a result of word, fate, order, and the intake of pure elements, water, air, and specific herbs. The medicine men focused on purification, sweat lodges, fasting, and bitter herbs to restore the internal well rather than killing an external invader. That doesn't exist. So, and now as far as killing the external invader, I'm not rejecting, and this isn't rejecting bacteria, bacteria or parasites, but it is rejecting the idea of viruses. So, Maimonides, the Scythian bridge, the great 12th century physician philosopher, emphasized that most diseases were the result of errors in diet and living. Now, a lot of modern people have said that over the last like 150 years. So, noting that the body is like a city. If the sanitation is maintained, the city flourishes. This is the foundational logic of the terrain. Earlier attackers of the virus phantom. Beyond Bishop, several forensic pioneers realized that the invisible pathogen was a linguistic mask for environmental poisoning. Dr. Robert Koch. Though his postulates are used to support germ theory, Koch himself admitted he could not satisfy them for many diseases like cholera or typhoid because the germ was often found in perfectly healthy people. Dr. Justus von Liebig. A contemporary of Pasteur, Liebig argued that fermentation and disease were purely chemical processes, the breakdown of organic matter due to instability, not caused by living microbes attacking the body. Dr. Max von Pettenkofer, to prove that the germ was not the cause, he famously drank a beaker of pure cholera bacteria in front of his students in 1892. He suffered no ill effects, proving that the soil, the person's health, was the determining factor, not the seed. Dr. Thomas Powell, 1910s, in his work, Fundamentals and Requirements of Health and Disease, he argued that pathogens were merely the scavengers of waste, mucoid matter, within a toxic body, not the cause of toxicity. The Spanish flu, the vaccine sickness link. There is significant forensic evidence from 1918 and 1920 suggesting the Spanish flu was actually an administrative medical disaster rather than a natural pandemic. Right, it was another engineered pandemic. Eleanor McBean, the silent witness, in her book The Poisoned Needle, McBean, who lived through the era, documented that the flu only struck those who had been vaccinated with experimental shots, typhoid, paratyphoid, and meningitis, given to the World War I troops. She noted that the unvaccinated enclaves, like certain Christian scientists or natural health communities, remained untouched. The Fort Riley Ground Zero, the outbreak began at a military base where soldiers were being subjected to a cocktail of experimental vaccines. The quote unquote Spanish designation was merely a linguistic diversion to hide the fact that the illness was a manufactured reaction to the military industrial medical complex. The syndicate uses viruses to explain away the toxicity of their own system, whether it is the lead in the pipes the toxins in the food or the chemicals in the medicine and the water. The virus is the phantom they blame to avoid administrative liability. So I thought it was a decent little quick synopsis.